Look, I love Mike Gundy, but I don't necessarily love this Oklahoma State team. After going 12-2 and being inches away from the college football playoff in 2021, the Cowboys looked like legitimate playoff contenders again in 2022. They started 5-0, rose as high as number 7 in the country, but then collapsed down the stretch, going just 2-6 in their final 8 games and losing to Wisconsin in their bowl game to finish the year at 7-6. And unfortunately, I don't know if this season is going to be that much better for the Cowboys in Stillwater. So welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, guys. We're so glad that you could join us today as we predict and analyze Oklahoma State and their record for this upcoming college football season. As always, please continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and check out everything down in the description below, including our expert picks over on our website, thegridironexpert.com. Some of the best college football and NFL spread picks in the entire country over there, beating out over 80% of the national analysts and handicappers each of the last 5 years. So if you want guaranteed winnings this season, check us out over on thegridironexpert.com. Check out our Patreon account as well. Join our Patreon Hall of Fame so you don't miss out on any of the exclusive college football content that we're posting throughout this year. You do not want to miss out on that. And make sure to send us some gear as well. Get your team represented in every single Gridiron Expert video as we continue to expand our Gridiron Nation from coast to coast. So let's take a look at Oklahoma State. This team, guys, I'm telling you, I mean, it looked good, right? 5-0 start, up to number 7 in the country, had a huge lead against TCU, collapsed and lost that game, bounced back against Texas, and then got blown out against Kansas State, and then that was it. The Cowboys were never the same after that. You take a look at this team now, breaking down the personnel. Offensively, they returned 7 starters, but their legendary quarterback, if you want to call him that, Spencer Sanders, is gone, transferred out. So who are they going to go with? They have Alan Bowman transferring in from Michigan, but more well known for his work that he did at Texas Tech, which when he's healthy, he's a phenomenal quarterback. The problem is keeping him healthy. Every year he's had some sort of health issue, some sort of injuries. Can he stay healthy in Stillwater? They also have Garrett Rangel behind him. He threw for 711 yards and 4 touchdowns last year, but didn't really impress too many people. So the quarterback situation a little bit sketchy. They lose their top running back in Dominic Richardson. He transfers to Baylor. They lose 5 of their 6 top wide receivers. Brennan Presley, the only one that returns. The offense, to me, looks a little bit bare. The defense last year, we knew would take a step back. They did. 28.9 points per game. They do return 6 starters on that side of the ball, but they do lose 8 of their top 10 tacklers from last year, including their star Mason Cobb. And this is still an Oklahoma State defense that gave up 436 yards per game last year. How much can we truly expect the Cowboys to improve on that side of the ball? It's going to be a tough year, guys. And it's crazy to say that when you look at their schedule, because the schedule is pretty favorable. They avoid a lot of the top dogs in the Big 12. If you look, they don't play Texas. They don't play TCU again. They've got a good schedule where they avoid some of the elite teams in the conference and maybe could go on a bit of a run. And I'll tell you right now, I think Oklahoma State starts the year 3-0. How about that? 3-0. I think they beat UCA. I think they beat Arizona State, and I think they beat South Alabama. Arizona State, the one game there that you could be slightly concerned about, I feel like, although South Alabama was no slouch last year, Oklahoma State cannot afford to overlook the Jaguars. But going on the road to the desert's never easy, but the Sun Devils are still in a bit of a dumpster fire state. Herm Edwards left them in a mess. They hired Kenny Dillingham as the new coach, so a first-year head coach. They've got a solid transfer quarterback in Drew Pine from Notre Dame. Oklahoma State, though, did win this game 34-17 in Stillwater last year. Gundy owns a significant coaching edge over Kenny Dillingham. And this is an Arizona State defense. They gave up 188 rushing yards per game last year, actually allowed 197 to the Cowboys when they played last year. I think Oklahoma State, coaching-wise, and even offensively, is still too good for Arizona State to take down, especially that early in the year. So I do think they start 3-0. Arizona State, a mini trap game there. And South Alabama, no slouch either, but I do think they get the wins. Then they go into Big 12 conference play. They're 3-0. They might be a top 25 team. And they take on a solid Iowa State team who the Cowboys beat 20-14 last year. But they got lucky. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not trying to dog on them, but this is an Iowa State team last year that should have won that game. Iowa State outplayed Oklahoma State in every single category, but ultimately had 5 turnovers, committing 3 of those in deep Oklahoma State territory, which ultimately led to a 6-point victory. Oklahoma State should not have won that game last year, and that's why I'm picking them to lose the game this year. Game is on the road in Ames. Iowa State, a much more experienced team than they were last year, and I just don't see them also committing 5 turnovers with 3 of those in scoring opportunities. So Iowa State gets the win in Ames and hands Oklahoma State their first loss of the year. The Cyclones, guys, if everything goes their way, could be a sneaky good team in 2023. Cowboys get their bye week at the end of September, which is somewhat beneficial coming after a loss, gives you time to regroup, but also the fact that they have to play 8 straight games after that is not ideal. Coming out of the bye week, they play a Friday night game against the reigning Big 12 champions in Kansas State, both of them off of a bye week as well. And we mentioned it last year. What ultimately broke Oklahoma State? It was that 48-0 loss to Kansas State last year. The Cowboys were still number 9 in the country, 6-1, had a chance to still make the playoffs, still make the Big 12 championship game. That ruined it all. It was the largest shutout loss by a top 10 team to a lower-ranked team in history, 48-0. And I'm here to tell you that, yes, the game is in Stillwater now. That's fantastic. Yes, they're coming off a bye week. That's fantastic. But I don't see a 48-point swing coming their way, especially with Kansas State still returning a lot of talent on their side of the ball. Will Howard returns at quarterback. They're going to have a pretty salty offensive line. The defense, as always, is pretty dang good. And, while the game, I think, is a lot closer, I don't think that Oklahoma State is 48 points better against a Kansas State team that is still about the same, maybe even a little bit better than they were last year. So give me Kansas State to come on the road and pull off a win at Oklahoma State. This is a good team. And I just don't know if they're going to mentally recover from that 48-0 loss they had last year. They stay at home and take on the other Kansas team. And look, I'm torn on this game, right? Kansas torched Oklahoma State last year, beat the Cowboys 37-16, put up 554 yards on this Oklahoma State defense. But I will say the Cowboys did not have Spencer Sanders in that game. I did not have Spencer Sanders, so the offense was kind of in shambles, and Kansas knew they needed that win to go bowling, and they took care of business. This year, I think Oklahoma State gets the win over Kansas. I don't think they're going to be dealing with the quarterback turmoil. Hopefully they're not. Hopefully whoever's that quarterback remains healthy and they have some consistency there. It is at home, which benefits them, and I'm still not sold on the Kansas defense. So the Kansas offense might come in and put up over 500 yards again, but the Oklahoma State offense will be able to do the same if they're fully healthy. I do believe that. So give me Oklahoma State, knowing they need a win. Gundy typically doesn't lose that many games in a row. I don't see them losing 3 games in a row. So give me a home win over a winnable Jayhawks team that's going to be good and competitive, more so than we've seen in recent years, but not enough to come on the road and get this win. 4 wins now for Oklahoma State. They snapped that 2-game losing skid. It could have easily been a 4-game losing skid if they don't beat Kansas, because I do think they lose at West Virginia. I really do. And I know a lot of people are going to frown upon that and say, how is that possible? But look at the logic here. Last year, West Virginia came into Stillwater and beat Oklahoma State 24-19 in the season finale. I know that was an Oklahoma State team that still was kind of in shambles at season's end. They had lost confidence. They were dealing with injuries. Personnel wasn't great. But now you've got about the same Oklahoma State team, maybe a little bit worse than they were last year, traveling to West Virginia to face a very similar West Virginia team that might be maybe a little bit better. At this point in the year, the Mountaineers are still maybe not entirely giving up on hope. I don't think they're going to be great. But we know Morgantown's not an easy place to play. And yes, I know Oklahoma State typically plays well there. They've won a lot there. It doesn't matter. I do think West Virginia gets this home win. It's going to be a crucial part in their season, but they're going to be in desperate need of a victory. And I think they get it done. If you can win in Stillwater with about the same team both ways, then you can win at home. That's my logic there. I think West Virginia does get the job done. West Virginia wants to run the football. Oklahoma State's defensive weakness, at least last year, one of them was stopping the run, and I think they're going to be able to get it done on October 21st. Oklahoma State returns home and take on Cincinnati, their first meeting since 1983. So we're going to see some cool matchups here against the Big 12 newcomers, and it should be noted that Oklahoma State plays every single one. They play Cincinnati, they play UCF, they play Houston, they play BYU. Those final 3 coming in the final 3 weeks of the year, and all 4 coming in the final 5 weeks of the year. So all kind of clumped together there. I do think they beat Cincinnati, though. This Cincinnati team as a whole just isn't going to have it this year. They're going to go through some growing pains, naturally and rightfully so, as you transfer to a new conference. But Cincinnati offensively isn't going to have it. Defensively might be pretty solid. If Oklahoma State's offense isn't great, I think you'll see a relatively low-scoring game. But Gundy over Scott Satterfield every day of the week. Home field advantage plays a big role here. Give me the Cowboys to beat Cincinnati. They've got 5 wins now, 1 away from a bowl berth, and it's not coming in those next 2 weeks. They're not beating Oklahoma. They're not beating UCF. Bedlam, baby. One of the best rivalry games and maybe underrated rivalry games in all of college football. But Oklahoma State hasn't really made it much of a rivalry, right? They've lost a lot. They've lost 17 of the last 20 games to Oklahoma. They lost 28-13 last year to a Sooners team that wasn't really all that great. Well, Oklahoma this year is going to be pretty dang good. If they stay healthy, the Sooners are a Big 12 title contender, no doubt about it. Yes, the game is in Stillwater, not too much of a home field advantage in the state of Oklahoma anyways, especially with in-state rivalry games. Both teams are going to show up. They're going to show out. But Oklahoma is a better team on both sides of the ball. And they're a team that wants to run the ball too. 220 rushing yards per game last year for the Sooners. Had 175 rushing yards against Oklahoma State last year. I think they're going to have another big day on the ground. Give me the win there for the Sooners. And then you go to that UCF-Houston, those two games on the road. Oklahoma State, to me, isn't winning both of those. I think they're going to split that series against UCF and Houston. So if you want to give them the win against UCF, great. I think they lose to Houston. If you want to give them the win against Houston, great. I think they lose to UCF. And that's what I think happens. I think they lose at UCF, which to me is a tougher environment to play in than Houston. It's the week after the loss to Oklahoma, a week after Bedlam, so maybe a little hungover from that game, especially if it's a close and emotional game. And it's a UCF offense that's very, very dangerous and could exploit an Oklahoma State defense if they have not improved. I mean, I really do like this Gus Malzahn-led team a lot. Might be the better, or might be the best of the Big 12 newcomers. So I like them a lot there. Houston, on the other hand, it's going to be fun to watch. It's an intriguing matchup, but ultimately, guys, Mike Gundy over Dana Holgorsen every single day. Mike Gundy was 5-2 against Dana Holgorsen when Holgorsen was at West Virginia. So I think they own the coaching edge there. I don't expect too much from Houston. The Houston defense, especially the secondary, is going to be really, really bad. So whoever's at quarterback for Oklahoma State could come out and have a pretty solid outing there. They're going to be in desperate need of a win as well. The urgency will be there. So I think they split those two road games at the end of the year. They got their sixth win with a win over the Cougars. Then they got BYU on senior day, so the final Big 12 newcomer. This is going to be fun, right? First meeting since 1976, two physical teams, and just an intriguing matchup all the way around. But it is senior day in Stillwater. I think Oklahoma State's going to be riding a little bit of that momentum following a big road win at Houston. And I do think they beat BYU, who, for a lot of the teams they play, the teams in Texas, West Virginia, they're going to have a long ways to go. A lot of traveling for the Cougars, and that certainly is bound to take a toll on them, especially by season's end. BYU is going to be an interesting team. Could flirt with bowl eligibility, but I do like Oklahoma State a lot more in this game than the Cougars. So give me the win for the Cowboys, and that's going to put them at 7-5 on the year. I know many would view that as a disappointment, but I'm telling you guys, after everything that Oklahoma State has lost, and yes, I know they added some key transfers as well, but after what we saw towards the end of last year and looking at what comes back this year, this does not scream Big 12 title team to me. This does not scream breakout year for me at Oklahoma State. They are absolutely a bowl team. I think they might be able to snag an extra win in there that we had pegged as a loss. Maybe 8 wins. But I think 8 wins is the max for this team. We're going to have them at 7-5, another solid bowl berth, a shot at an 8-win season, which is still a pretty solid year, all things considered. But I know with the expectations, might be viewed as a bit of a disappointment. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and check out everything down in the description below. Check out those expert picks over on thegridironexpert.com. Check out our Patreon account for exclusive college football content. Send us some gear to have your team represented as a part of our GE Nation. And once again, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.
Yeah.